I'm gonna show you a little bit of how I work in the gym and how I evaluate my clients. I use a system called the joint-by-joint approach, a system that is invented about 15 years ago by a physiotherapist, an American physiotherapist called Gray Cook, a very interesting guy. If you look historically, especially when it comes to rehabilitation and physiotherapy, and still today, most physiotherapists today, they look at your problem as a problem where you have your pain. For instance, knee pain, which is very common. They look at your knee, and if they don't find any specific problem in your knee, you leave without a specific, no exercises, no nothing. And as you know, and most people that has been active and had maybe an accident or an injury knows that it's not necessarily your knee that is the problem. It could be your biomechanics, it could be a myriad of different things, right? And obviously, if you don't have an injured knee, or you maybe you get an MR on your knee, and they doesn't show any problems, but you still have pain in your knee. It's obvious that you have to look at this from another point of view. Sometimes you had a trauma on your knee, and you have broken tissues or whatever, and yeah, we have a common approach for that. Doctors and physiotherapists have studied that for a long time, and there's millions different ways to fix that. But today, especially because of the modern lifestyle, people sitting down for plus 8 hours a day, we see that most people have issues and pain problems that is not caused from a trauma. It's not caused from an injury. It's caused from lack of muscles, bad biomechanics, these type of things. Okay. So a very smart way to look at that is to look at it like Gray Cook from a joint-by-joint approach, and that means that you have to look at all the different segments in your body, and the segments are usually joints, and we look at it from bottom up. And we have the first segment in your body is your foot, right? Yeah. The wall of your foot here. And a very common foot today, a very weak foot, is a pronated foot, right? Okay. You can see that a lot of people walking. I'm so perfect that I can't even show you. But most people pronate a little bit in their foot. It's quite common that it's rotated out from your body as well. And if you have a segment that is not doing what they're supposed to do, the foot is supposed to be a stable segment. Every segment should have a certain purpose. It should be a segment that should stabilize or mobilize your body. It can't be doing both at the same time. And the wall of the foot is supposed to be stable, right? If you have a mobile foot, you have a weak foot that is most of the time pronating. It could be supinating as well, but it's quite uncommon. You have a pronated foot. If your foot is pronated and you have lack of stabilization in your foot, the next segment is going to have to take that responsibility. Exactly. And then you're going to have a stiff foot joint here. And this is very, very common. You see it in probably 7 out of 10 people today. They have a weak foot here and a stiff foot joint. Right? And all of us know, and when you're gonna try to make a stiff foot squat, it's gonna look a little bit like this, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because they can't make their knee drive forward, and next thing is they're gonna bend their back and blah 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 blah. So, and this is the way I look at it, all the way up, and most of the time it's every other segment is supposed to be stable or mobile, right? And one very interesting thing with stability and mobility is that the body will always strive for stability, not mobility, right? A hypermobile body, which is very common in your profession, is almost always in pain, right? Hypermobile people always, I would say, 95% have pain,
something wrong
right?
with them somewhere.
Extremely stiff people might have a little bit of pain, but not half as much as the hypermobile individual. So stability is more or less better, even if you can see today that most people are a little bit too stable or a little bit too stiff, maybe, right?
Yeah.
So that common exercises and common life gets a little bit weird for them because they don't have the proper mobility. But in the end, the body will always strive for stability first. That's why if you don't exercise, if you don't do your mobility work, you will get stiff. You will stiffen up. So a very common problem when it comes to mobility work is that people try to do static stretching, for instance, which could work at some point. But if you don't first have the stability and you try to get some mobility out of an unstable body, nothing is going to happen, or extremely little is going to happen. And what's going to happen is going to happen for a very short period of time, and then the stability is going to kick in again, and you feel stiff again. I mean, how many people haven't spent years of stretching their hamstrings, right? And what happens? You see some progress while you're doing it. Half a day later, it's stiff again, right? And that's most of the time because they have a lack of stability in their abdominal muscles, in their whole core is out of stability, and they have a stiff hip because of the lack of stability here, and they try to stretch it out, and they stretch it without any form of stability in their core at all. So, so what I do, a very not so easy, but one exercise that kind of shows the whole body, show you the body and the stability and mobility is what we call an overhead squat, which is basically a squat where you have in this case I have a broomstick. I always use a broomstick. Most people can't manage to do overhead squat at all, but especially not with a bar. So when I do it as a test, I always use a 90 degrees angle in my elbow, only because I want to get a proper evaluation, and I want to be able to see some progress or not. So I do like this, and I put it up here, right? I put my feet hip wide apart and try to squat down as far as possible. And as you can see, my body here, you can see that when I'm coming down a little bit, the broomstick is falling forward here, right?
Yeah.
So you can say that is a mobility issue, right? Since I'm not able to keep the broomstick in a vertical position over my head. And yeah, I've done this before, so I know that more or less it is a mobility issue from my thoracic spine. But what you see most of the time here is the foot joint first. The foot starts to pronate. The knees start maybe to collapse inwards, and so on. Yeah, like this a little bit, and so on. And then you can, start to look at it from that perspective, right? So, in my case, I've been doing plenty of work to try to get my thoracic spine mobility up, and before I understand the whole situation, it was nothing's happened. I've been doing martial arts for most of my life. I've been spending hours and days and years probably like this, right? If I spend 8 hours here and then I go stretch my back for 5 minutes, right? I'm still a little bit behind, you know. Exactly. And if I do that every day, and I say, why isn't this mobility work doesn't do me any good? So I have to look at it from another perspective. And this is very interesting because this is most people when they then do a program for their client, they only do it from an interview. Maybe from maybe they use overhead squat. Some people use overhead squat. It's quite common, but they very rarely see it from this point of view. They only look at it most of all as mobility issues. Where is can you reach overhead, blah, blah, blah. But in my stability, you have to get stability first. And this is crucial. If you look at CrossFit, for instance, which is, in my case, almost optimal way to train if you know how to do it, right? But CrossFit is focusing almost only on speed, right? Explosive speed and power. All their exercises are power-based, right? For me, it's stability first, mobility second, and then power. You cannot shoot a cannon out of a canoe, right? Doesn't matter how big the cannon are if the canoe are little, and the canoe is your stability, right? Okay. So if you see that I can't get any more power out of my body doesn't generate any more power, what happens? They build a bigger canoe, right? They put on some more weights. They think, okay, a little bit more power into my training, and sooner or later the canoe's gonna sink. Yeah. So what they have to do is build a bigger canoe for their small cannon, and all of a sudden they can shoot with the cannon for real. And when the canoe is big, build a bigger cannon, right? But so stability is crucial. Stability is hard to train.
Would you say that's the foundation of building a training program? Is to get the client
it's stability. Yeah. I would say stability is the foundation, especially for general population, where if you sit down all day, you don't have to be a exercise physiologist to understand that stability might be lacking, right? Because you don't need stability when you sit down, right? So so first of all, you have to look at it, and then of course it's not so very fun to do stability training, especially not like traditional stability training. So what I try to do is I try to integrate these things immediately into your exercise program. I'm a big fan of corrective exercises and stuff, and it's been huge these last couple of years. You can take courses, you can take 2-week courses with just massive amounts of corrective exercises. Seriously, are they fun? All these somewhat physical therapy exercises? No, they're not fun. They might be really, really good, and in some cases they might be crucial. You need to do it, and then do it, right? But sometimes people go to an personal trainer and they get a 3-day split with 90% corrective exercises, right? All these corrective exercises needs, first of all, they need perfect, you have to do them in a perfect way to get the results, right? If you do a squat in some senses, you get a lot out of it, even if you don't do it perfectly, because you load your whole body and everything. Your heart's going to start to pump everything. If you were going to do an external rotation in a pulley, and you do it like this, right? You might as well just skip it, because it's shit, right? It's not going to give you nothing. Your heart's not going to pump. You're not going to build any muscles anywhere. You're gonna hurt your back, probably. That's what you're gonna do from it. So, and these people get an exercise program with a lot of corrective exercises to do without the proper knowledge of how to do it, and they're not fun. So you all know, if no matter how good your exercise program are, the most important thing is that you do it, right? And that you do it good. If you don't do it good, it doesn't matter, all right? One very interesting guy that I've been following my whole career and done most of my education from is Charles Poliquin, and he got the answer once that, what is the most important thing to get the results in the strength room? And I was in a lecture with some 100 trainers from all around the world. And when this answer got everybody's like, okay, shit, gotta listen to this. Now he's gonna drop the bomb here. And so what's the 3 most important things in the strength room? And Charles said, number 1, hard work. Okay, all right, hard work. Yeah, hard work is good. Hard work, sure. Okay, but now it's gonna come here. Now it's gonna drop the bomb here. Second, hard work. All right. Yeah, I guess it's that important, right?
Mhm.
All right, we do hard work. Third, hard work. And this is a genius kind of guy, you know. He's been coaching athletes in all levels for you know,
Nice.
like I said, probably one of the big ones. And yeah, it's hard work. First, second, and third hard work. When you do this, then you can start apply all your special techniques, books, blah 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 blah. But anyways, back to this. Stability is crucial. Stability we have to work on first. Look at stability, and to get your stability, and then again your mobility. Because if you work on the stability and you do your exercises in a manner that's gonna make you, first of all stable and use a little bit of mobility, right? Then you're gonna train both. So then I try to implement all these fun, nice, good exercises like squats, deadlifts, presses, pulls, you know, twists, launches, all these carries, but do them in a perfect manner. Maybe deload them from what the guys or girls are doing initially. Deload them, learn the technique properly. Maybe I make their ROM less bigger, longer. Manipulate with the exercises, but I try to do as much fun, big, nice, functional, if you want, exercises from the very beginning, because that in most cases people are going to think that's much more fun. They're going to have more results. They will do it, and and we all know that if the client don't get any results, they're not going to come back. That goes back to this education, everything, right? Get your trainer to get results from your clients, no matter what.
Now, one of the questions that I get a lot from trainers is that when they get a client for the first time, they want to go straight into the gym, start working out. And I'm saying no, but I think that the first hour should be like an assessment of where your client. Is that good? Is that good to do?
Yeah, always. If you're not assessing, you're guessing. Right, always. So, I always assess, and then maybe at some points I just do a few overhead squats and do a push-up also, and to look at, because most of the time you could, I mean, especially if you have a bit of education, you don't need to assess them all the way down to, because you see that, okay, this sucks, that sucks, and this sucks. So we have to work on that first. And I don't care about breathing patterns and blah, 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 because we have might have a pronated foot. They're coming in like this. Yeah, I want a deadlift. All right. We can deadlift, but first we have to fix this. So, yeah, sure. Assessment is crucial, but then again, don't assess to assess. That's another part, right? Today, with all these cool courses and all these, a lot of salesmen, training coach and salesmen, they try to sell you a new approach or a new way of thinking, and now it's this, and now lately it's been a lot of neural training, thing, right? Yeah, we have to get the nervous system to. Yeah, of course. All these are very interesting parts, but we're talking about general population here. We're talking about more or less dysfunctional, ordinary human beings that wants to move a little better, lift a little heavier, feel a little bit more sexy naked, and you don't have to assess them all the way down to their bones and
psychology.
No, exactly. But we have to look at what's crucial here. Where is the stability? Where is the mobility issues? First of all, work on that. Work on it in a more or less fun way to make them, because it's quite easy for anybody with some experience to make a good program. It's also quite easy to make a fun program, but combine them two, It's not easy. That's not easy. If you can
Yeah.
do that, then
Yeah.
boom, that's nirvana. Yeah.
I think that maybe some of these trainers, they feel under pressure. If the client's bought 10 hours, for example, which is tends to be the average amount the client buys, that they're going to waste 1 hour of the client's time doing assessment when they should be out in the gym burning calories. That's how they think, So how important is this part to making the other 9 hours work?
Exactly. That's just basically tell them, you wanna waste your 10 hours or you wanna waste 1 hour, right? If we don't assess, it might be that of course you don't tell them waste your 10 hours, but in a way it could be that we find out after 5 sessions that you get your back start hurting more, or you get your knee pain back again from 2 years before because you start training so much harder than you done in a while. So now that's quite easy to explain for most people, right? And the burning calories, I almost always tell my clients, you can burn your calories. You don't need me to burn your calories, right? If you really need me to burn calories, but think again, right? Because it's going to be expensive for you if you need me to burn your calories for you. But so the calorie burning, really, they could take care of more or less themselves, hopefully. If they want to get these results that most people actually think they're going to get, get slim or whatever, some amount of calorie burning they have to do themselves at least. I do excessive walking and running, biking, swimming, whatever. Right? But we take care of what you really need. The exercise that you really need to really get better. But burning calories are easy, extremely easy, compared to the strength training in a proper manner.
Makes sense.
So the 3 big ones that real big sexy exercises, presses, bench and overhead press, deadlifts and squats, I use in every strength training program that I make.
Okay.
No matter what, no matter if I have a 80-year-old woman that has whatever, all these problems that tend to show up on 80-year-old people.
Yeah.
And they don't have this. They're not interested at all in powerlifting, which is this is actually powerlifting, right? But so when I tell her, I'm gonna teach you how to squat better. Squat better, She thinks about some fat guy with 400 kilos on their back, maybe, or some bodybuilder or whatever. But squatting, research says that an inactive individual squat about 20 to 30 times a day. And that's the inactive, right? So if you can't squat, you can't really have a nice life, right? So, and so we have to squat, and we have to do it in a way that doesn't cause you pain, right? So, so squat is interesting, very, very interesting. Probably one of the most interesting exercises. And the common errors you see, I did the overhead squat to start with. What I look at very fast in a squat is that I try to make the elbows point down to the floor, because if I said stretch your back or straighten out your back, it's not all people understand what I'm saying. Right? It could be like this, it could be all kinds of things. If I tell them to put your elbows to the floor, here, if you have your elbows pointed to the floor, try to bend your back at the same time. It's fairly impossible, right? So, and what happens automatically when I put my elbows to the floor is that I do what we call a retraction of the shoulder blades. You put your shoulders down and in, and that's crucial, because that's all the cars, all the laptops and computers have made the shoulder blade stability awful today. The forward head rounded position like this is probably more or less
Common now.
everybody has
Yeah.
got it, right? So, and when you're gonna load your body with a lot or more weight than before, it's crucial to do a retraction of your shoulder blades first, no matter what you do. So I work a lot on that as well. For the squat, as for anybody, any other exercise, a retraction of your shoulder blades, how you put your feet doesn't really matter. It's up to your body, how your body looks, how whatever feels comfortable for you. I don't like to see feet out, spread out like this, because that indicates that you have a tight hip. And but it could be like 10, 15 degrees out. Doesn't really matter. Quite common that I put something underneath their heels to get their heels elevated a little bit, since they probably have a tight foot joint. And you all know that the powerlifters use shoes that is elevated. Since if you put a weight on your back like this, you automatically have to lean a little bit forward, right? Otherwise you're gonna fall back. That's quite common biomechanics. So when you lean a little bit forward, you close your hip, and that's for most people much harder to start squatting with a hip that is a little bit closed. So if you get your heels elevated a little bit, you can open up your hip, you get more of a balanced starting position. I tell them to squeeze their glutes. Gluteal amnesia is a very common
Very much so.
cause today for back pain and stuff, and excessive lumbar spine and
lordosis.
lordosis, exactly, and more or less no activation of your gluteal muscles. So I tell them to squeeze their glutes. Here you can see sometimes a lot of people say can't even squeeze their glutes. They know how to do it. They start to do it and they start to shake because it's so hard for them. Because at the same time they maximize their
Quads.
their quads and start to cramp almost. So, and then there we know, okay, we have to work on your glutes. And sometimes the squat looks like this for 30 seconds. That's their squat. They don't even move. They squeeze their glutes to start with. 30 seconds of gluteal
Activation.
squeeze, rest, gluteal squeeze, rest, 30 seconds to get that activated. And then we can start the journey down. And we want to see that journey without any knees that collapse, any foot that rotates out, and most of all, no rounding of your back. So it's not that easy, and
No, it's extremely
extremely tough
biomechanically, it's a
in
very
one sense,
complex
right? So I could easily spend those 10 hours teaching someone to squat. Sure, it has to be all of fun again, and it's not that very fun to do it, all these little things. But then again, a lot of people experience some kind of discomfort or pain when they squat, right? And it's usually not the squat. I mean, you heard many times, no, I don't squat. You know, I train a lot, but I don't squat. You know, it's dangerous. I read somewhere it's dangerous. Okay, yeah. How can squatting be dangerous, right? Being overweight is dangerous. Squatting is not dangerous. So if you, and most of the time, if you know how to do it, you can get someone to squat without pain in 30 minutes. And then they're going to be happy, right? Maybe they haven't squatted never, as long as they can remember, without experiencing some pain somewhere. And they start squatting without pain. Woohoo! They're gonna talk to every friend they have about this fantastic personal trainer that made them squat without discomfort. So squatting, we also have the hip hinge, or most commonly called the deadlift. I don't use the term deadlift so much. I try to use the hip hinge because deadlifting is actually an exercise, not a movement. You know, the movement is the hip hinge, which is compared to the squat, which is a quad-driven exercise. The hip hinge is a hip-driven exercise here, right? and doesn't require much quads, but requires a lot of glutes, hamstrings, and back. And if something causes a lot of
injuries,
problems in general population, is the hip hinge. When I test the hip hinge, when I tell someone pick something up from the floor, it does not look like this, right? It looks like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Here. Something
one
like
leg
this,
come
right?
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or all kinds of things, right? And of course, that's not good. So we have to reprogram their hip hinge. You can do that in a myriad of ways, of course. But the most important thing, I think, is to get them to understand this, that here we have maybe, I don't know if they can see it from that angle, but I have a triangle here. Right? If you build anything in your life, you know that triangles are a good way to build, right?
Yep.
So here we have a very stable, very good force output and a very good start position. If I bend my back, there's no triangle here anymore, right?
It's almost pizza shape.
If I sit down like this, it might be a triangle, but it's not that sexy, right? I have a rounded back as well. So I try to look at this, try to make them understand it's a good way for themselves to look at what's going on, because obviously it's quite hard to look at your own back. I have a problem with it, at least. So from here, up to here. And then depending on their mobility and stability, we might be able to lift from the floor at the very start, but usually not. Actually, I have to take them up a little bit, maybe just get them to be strong in a hinging position. So, basically, we have 3 different ways to move with your lower body, and all the other exercises or movements are just these 3 combined. And that's a squat, it's a hip hinge, and it's a launch. And everything else, it's a mix of these. And the launch, as you know, it's something like this. And it could be executed sideways or backwards or anything. But this, so as you can see, you can do a whole exercise program with only this broomstick. The launch I use a lot. I use it as warm-ups a lot of time with the stick here. When you tell almost anybody to do a launch, it's gonna look like this. Huh? They're gonna lean forward with the stick here, and 3 points here between your glutes, between your shoulder blades, and the back of your head. You get a straight line, and you can work from there, basically. And it's very interesting. You can quite often you can see a lot of errors directly from a launch. Maybe even better than the squat. If you have a very stiff individual, I use more launches because they find the squat very, very difficult and very maybe they can't come down as far as you want, so you won't really get anything out of it. Right? So, but a launch, basically anybody can launch, right? So, and can launch with, basically anybody could launch. But you could, I mean, this is a good, you don't have to do the step, really. I mean, here you have a good launch. You can have a stick here, just make sure they're not leaning on it, they're just having it as a something to grab onto if they lose balance.
Even a couple of books under the knee.
Under the knee here, absolutely, not to get the knee all the way down, absolutely. There's hundreds.
The hip flexor issue.
Hip flexor
is huge in people.
Absolutely. I mean, not commonly looks like this, right? As soon as they're coming down. So, the launch is probably the one exercises that I use the most initially, right? And but usually I want the clients to get better at squats and deadlifts because it's I don't know. I like it more. No, but it's you can load them more, right? You usually get more of a result from focusing on get them to do them better. But the launch is a very, very good way to get them better at these exercises. And as I said, most people, you could get almost any client to start from the first session to do launches pretty heavy and make them feel that they're actually doing something, you know. Get them to the wall, standing like this, doing hip hinge. They're gonna be so boring, and they're not gonna get any feeling of exercising. But get them to launch, put a little bit of weight on them, whatever. All these balance and everything is gonna make them sweat and make them feel that, yeah, I've done some serious work. Cool. So for the upper body, yeah, there's pulling and there's pressing, obviously. I think the pressing is depressing. No? I think the pressing part is more interesting for your upper body and more crucial. I look at that first. Because if I integrate hip hinge in a good way, I don't necessarily need all that pulling, because you put your lats and your low back into the hip hinge a lot. So, but for the chest, for the shoulders, everything, the pressing is very important. So I use push-ups to look at what's going on. Push-ups are hard. 90% of everybody that think they do push-ups, they do a push-up, obviously, but it's not a healthy push-up. So it's not that many people that I ordinate to do push-ups. I rarely do exercise programs with push-ups. I use it to look at how the pressing, what's going on, you know. But usually I don't use it as much as an exercise. I use floor pressing, floor bench press. I put them on the floor. Much easier to get a good retraction with your shoulder blades. You get a good foundation of stability on the floor, and get them to work from there with dumbbells or a barbell. Yeah. Overhead pressing as well, but since overhead pressing is much harder, and with the forward rounded position like this, overhead pressing is not. It's further down the line. You see, most people.
The structure comes back.
Especially most people, when they put their hands overhead, this happens, right? And do that 10 times, and they're gonna start to feel some pain in their low back. So I usually put overhead pressing a little bit further down. Our modern lives seems to took away all the reaching overhead, you know. So some people don't even. It's been. I haven't been overhead in 20 years, you know. So and the ones that are overhead are the ones that work overhead, and they don't need to be overhead at the gym. They need to be under here, because their shoulders are usually messed up already. So, but it's a very, very interesting exercise, and I strive for it with all my clients. So yeah, that's
cool.
Basically.
I like how you've broken it down into some very simple, direct type exercises. Yeah. I've always been training with the belief that if you were to do one exercise for the rest of your life, it's the overhead squat. Yeah. It facilitates all joints, all muscles, everything, essentially, of the body. And it's the perfect measure of stability.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
From top to top.
It is. You can, even though at some points it could be hard to really see what it is that it's the problem. Because some people have so much problems, it's just okay. It was not
good. Exactly. And I think that's something that I've taught myself over the years as well, is to take that idea of the overhead squat. Okay, but let's just now break it down into smaller areas, because of exactly what you said. The 8 hours, the modern lifestyle. Not many people out there can do a decent squat, let alone an overhead squat. So, you know, when I assess, I'll break things down into, okay, just do a squat. I don't care what your upper back looks like. I'm just looking at your ankles.
Start with the feet.
And then, okay, do another squat. And that's when I just look at the knees. And then after 10 or so, then I finally stand back and look at the picture as a whole. Because to look at the picture as a whole straight away on the modern person.
Oh yeah.
You've got too much going on.
Yeah, that's actually why I use the joint by joint approach as well, to be able to, because it's very easy to get like over accelerated with all these. Okay, shit, I'm gonna fix this and that, and so boom, foot, right? The feet first. Okay, feet. Does the feet work?
Yeah.
It does. All right. Does the knee work? Not really. Okay, let's check out the knee. Why doesn't it work?
What's in between?
What can we do to make the knees work better? And then you get it's easy for you as a trainer to kind of take a step back and see what's important here.
So step by step, you build a good foundation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
and we're coming back to the foundation again.
Yeah. Wise man builds a house upon the rocks,
Yeah.
not upon the sand.
With triangles.
With triangles, exactly.
Triangular rocks.
Yeah,
That's the
triangular
way to go.
rocks.
Yeah.
Awesome. Interesting.
No, I think that's I mean, everything leads to what we're talking about. You know, it's all interconnected.
Yes.
You know, modern day society, we have to deal with modern day issues, so we need to have modern day solutions. It's like that.
21st century solutions.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's usually not that complicated. It's usually common. A very interesting guy, Mark Twain, you know, wrote some interesting books. He said the problem with common sense is that it's not that common.
Exactly.
Because basically you can if
Complicate
you
everything.
have some common sense, you can tell anybody it's common sense, right?
yeah.
Right? I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't know why I have such a bad back. You don't really. I mean, really, you don't have slight skew, but they don't want to face the fact that they're overweight and they don't exercise. They want to have uphill, or they want to have that magic exercise that
Solves
fix
it
the
all.
whole problem. You know,
That's true.
and they doesn't exist. You know,
No.
they don't exist.
Well,
No, not cool.
thanks for that, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
very
Appreciate
interesting.
that. Appreciate that.